Hello guys, today I'll be showing you how to create a virtual machine on Hyper-V. Now for you to run Hyper-V, you need to have Windows 10 Pro or Windows 10 Enterprise edition of Windows, or you can have Windows 11 Pro or Windows 11 Enterprise. So for us to check this, you just come to your Windows Explorer and then you can just come to Computer and then Settings, System Properties, and then you can see Windows 10 Enterprise. If you have Pro, it can still work. So for you to be able to use Hyper-V, you have to turn it on. That feature is not available to regular users. It's an additional feature. So to do that, you can just come here to settings and just check for turn Windows features on and off. Okay, you can see that, and click on that, and then the window pop-up comes up and you can just scroll through. I'm going to enlarge this so you can see there are many other options right here, but for this case we just need Hyper-V. Mine is already checked because I'm already using Hyper-V on my system. So if you check this and click on OK, if it's your first time, it will take a while to install, and then it will ask you to reboot your system. After it reboots, you'll be able to find Hyper-V on your search bar. So I mean this, you can come click here, and if you type Hyper-V, so mine, you can see Hyper-V Manager. So if you haven't turned on that feature, you won't be able to find this the first time you check it. So if I click on this, my Hyper-V Manager would open up. So this is the interface. But before we get in here, you need to know that the virtualization technology has to be turned on. If it is not turned on your PC, even if you go to turn on the Hyper-V feature, it wouldn't work. So how do you check this? You just right click on your taskbar, go to Task Manager. In Task Manager, you can come to Performance and click on CPU. This is already checked, and you check here. Once you come down here, you will see virtualization enabled. If it isn't enabled, you can just go through to reboot your system and change that setting in your BIOS setup. Once you do that, you'll be able to use Hyper-V. So in Hyper-V Manager, you can quickly see in the right panel here, you can see quick create new, import virtual machine, Hyper-V settings, Hyper-V Manager. So for us to create our virtual machine, we need to create a network for it to be able to communicate with other virtual machines that we're going to be creating. So that's going to be our first task. So we're going to click on Virtual Switch Manager, and we're going to create a new virtual switch. This is what helps the virtual machines communicate with each other. So we're going to create a new virtual machine and virtual switch. So here you see options: internal, private, and external. If you go through, you would see there are explanations of what they are capable of. So I'm just going to give you a quick overview. For private, it just means that the virtual machines that you create on this platform, this Hyper-V platform, will be able to communicate with each other. Just that. But if you use the internal option, it means that the virtual machines can communicate with each other while they can also communicate with the physical host system that you're using to mount this. Then if you click on external, it just means that it can communicate with both, like all the options. You can communicate with the virtual machines, the host computer, and also to other devices in the external network via your internet. So we're just going to create a private switch here. So we're going to create private switch. We're going to name it. I'm going to name it, let's call it the Oswald Tech. The Oswald Tech virtual switch, and we've chosen private, and we apply. Once we apply, click on OK, and that's done. Next thing we need to do is to create our virtual machine. So I'm going to create two instances. We're going to create a virtual machine running the Windows 2016 server operating system, and then we're going to run a Ubuntu and just see how it is, just to give you variations. So if you come here, you can just say new, you click on new virtual machine, and then the wizard pops up. So this is wizard. You can just read through this and just click next. Here they're asking you for the name of the virtual machine. So let's just call this the Oswald Tech Windows 2016. Yeah, so Windows 2016 server. Then we have to choose the location. You can use by default. There's a default location for this, but I want us to save it where I choose. So I'm going to just come here and choose my preferred location and then select that and then next. And in here, you're asked to choose the generation of the system you want to use. So generation 1 and generation 2. Generation 2 just means that this system can handle older versions of older operating systems like Windows Vista, Windows 7, and that's 32-bit and 64-bit guest operating systems. But for generation 2, it uses newer versions, and these newer versions have more features like the UEFI base firmware and benefits that comes with it, like the secure boot and all of that. So I'm going to choose for this purpose generation 2, and we're going to click on next. So you see that once you create this operating this virtual machine, you cannot come back to change this. This is something that you cannot change afterwards. So you have to be certain of what you want to do. But I'm choosing generation 2 for this case. So you click on next. Here, like every computer that you have, it needs to have a virtual memory, like a RAM size. So RAM allocation must be made here. So we're going to give it, in this case, I'm going to use a 2 gig RAM. So 2048, 2 gig RAM, and I think that would do. And you see a checkbox here where it says use dynamic memory for this virtual machine. If you uncheck this box, it simply means that off the bat, once you create this VM, this virtual machine, it means that you're going to allocate this amount of RAM size to this virtual machine. It's taken immediately. But if you check this box that says use dynamic memory for this virtual machine, it means that the allocated amount of RAM size as given to this VM would not be taken all at once. It will only take what it needs per use, like as the use need arises, it will continue to take what it needs, and then when it gets to the maximum, that's just the cap. It can't go further. So we're clicking this and then we click on next. Remember, before we started this, we created our virtual switch that we want to use to communicate with other systems. So here I'm going to quickly just choose the Oswotech virtual switch. Then click on next. Also, we need to be able to store data, store our operating system, store everything that we're going to be doing. So we see the name is right here. We need a virtual disk. So creating a virtual disk, remember, every resource you use in creating your virtual machine is borrowed from your host system. So if you do not have space, and if you do not have RAM, storage space, if you don't have RAM, it means you cannot create, you cannot give what you do not have, basically. So this is the default that is asked for 127. I prefer to just give it 30 gig. Just to show, I'll just click on next here, and I have an operating system here, bootable image on my PC. So I'm just going to click on this and choose the location. So I want to use Windows Server 2016, so it's right here. I click that and I attach this image file. Then next, here you're able to preview everything. You can see the generation of the VM, you can see the memory, you can see the network switch it is attached to, the hard disk where it's stored, you can see the operating system. So I'm just going to click on finish. It's creating. Okay, that was fast. So this is our virtual machine, is right here. But just before we go further to start up our virtual machine and see, I said you cannot give what you do not have. So for this PC, I have in RAM memories of 32 gig. So I have an available RAM size of 23. So I'm able to give that amount, like 2 gig. I could even give up to 20 if I was going to use that. But if you have anything less, you cannot just give what you do not have. Basically, that's what I'm trying to show you here. So you can come check your RAM here and know what RAM size you have. Also about storage, if you come to your PC, you can see the storage space you have. I still have about 430 gigabyte available. So I could give, I was able to give 30 gig from this, and that would do. So let's just go back to our Hyper-V platform and see what happens. So now we've created this. We can just go ahead and run this. We can see the options here. If you click on this VM, you can see options here to connect. You can see to start, the checkpoint, and all of this. You can either start from here, or you just right click here and click on connect. And when you connect, you can start the virtual machine. Now, When you start this virtual machine for the first time, you'll be asked to press any button. So if you do not press the button on time, like as fast as possible, you won't be able to do that again. So if you click anything like I'm clicking now, it wouldn't respond again. So you just know that you have to start over the internet, over a network. But you have your file attached to this virtual machine, your image file attached to this virtual machine. So you need to boot it from that image file. So I'm just going to come here and restart this. If I restart this now, you'll be able to see that we get the option to do this again. So this is it, you see. And then once it takes a while and this pops up, you're not able to do that again. So I'm going to do it one more time and then do this and then click quickly. See, it loads the files and we're good to go. So this will take a little while, and see the setup wizard is right here. So you just click on next, click on install now. And then I do not have a product key right now, so just click on I don't have a product key, and you can choose what version of the operating system you want to install. So you see the options. You have standard desktop experience, data center desktop experience. Basically, the ones that have desktop experience are the operating systems that have GUI, graphic user interface. So it's just going to be something that you can see where to click and all of that. But the ones that do not have the extra description desktop experience, it means they are just command line interface control, like just CLIs that you use in controlling the VM. So for this case, I'm just going to use data center and just next, and then you can spend some time to read through these license terms. But I'm just going to check this box and then next. And since we're installing for the first time, this is our first time installing this. We're not trying to upgrade or do anything. This is a fresh VM, so we're just going to install from scratch. This is our allotted storage space. Remember, we used 30 gigabytes, and now we can just click on this and then next. Once we click on next, you see installation process has begun. So it's just going to take some time and you'll see what happens there. While this is going on, you can just see the you can click on settings right here. When we click on settings, we're able to see the firmware where it's booting from, the RAM size, the processor, the hard drive, and more settings. So let's come back here. So the process is still ongoing, so we'll just wait for this to go on. So the time it takes varies depending on the capacity of your system. So your RAM, your storage, if it's SSD or HDD. So it's all dependent on that. So for me, it took about 12 to 15 minutes, I guess. Yeah. So it might take some time. You have to be patient. So this is finishing up. We're almost there. So now that's done, it's about to restart the VM. So it's coming up. So this will take some time. Let's see how long this will take. So now that we're here, we have to set up a password. Of course, there is a password policy. So we think we have to have like 8 characters. We need some special characters inside. So I'm just going to create one now. So that's done. Remember I said Hyper-V cannot work on home edition of Windows 10. So it works on 64-bit of Windows 10 and Pro and Enterprise and education also. And education also. So let's wait for this to finalize and then the profile will be created. So we get to choose the size of the window. We'll just connect the VM. So it's connecting again. And you can see that the VM is running. It's running right here. This is the assigned memory. Remember we assigned 2 gig RAM to this, but right now it's just using 894. So this is why we did dynamic. So it's not taking all of the allocated RAM's size that we give to it. So we're just going to have this. So now we have our VM is up, and if I put in my password, we are signing in. So this is just step by step on how you can get this done. So for this video we're going to focus on this, and then the next video will show you how to set up an Ubuntu distribution, like Ubuntu distribution on Hyper-V. So let's just watch this. It's preparing Windows now. So we have just successfully created a virtual machine, and for servers I realized that you can increase the size as much as you want. It's variable, but this doesn't happen when you're just installing maybe creating a client computer. It doesn't allow you to do all of this, but for a server you can do this. So it's opening up the server manager, and that's just how it works. So right here we're in and seeing how to do this. So thank you for watching, and see you in our next video. Bye.